Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that right now. Hit that subscribe button right below. Another huge game on Sunday, Indianapolis Colts at the Kansas City Chiefs. It's Sunday at 1 o'clock window for the Chiefs here. Chiefs favored by 3.5, over-under is 49.5 per FanDuel. It's the 8-2 Colts coming off their bye against the 5-5 Chiefs. A massive game.
Yeah.
Playoff implications here.
The only way this should be a 1 p.m. game is if it's Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, and we're just trying to bury them in the 1 p.m. window, in which case I support it.
You're hoping for that.
Yeah, I endorse it in that scenario. In any other scenario, it should be the second window at the minimum.
Chiefs coming off of 2 straight losses now. They had the Bills, then a bye, lose to the Broncos. They're sitting here at 5-5. Now, they're another team where the schedule should get easier. Like, they have at least some gimmies on the schedule. They have the Titans. They have the Raiders still to come. But there might not be a bigger game in the Mahomes era when it comes to playoff implications. I got to find the stat here. Our old friend Timo Riska yesterday tweeting, probably for the first time since 2017, the Chiefs have the highest playoff leverage of the week.
Yeah.
And so for their general playoff leverage, I mean, they're roughly a win puts them almost 70% chance to make the playoffs. A loss puts them about 30%. So that's how significant this game is for Kansas City. A win, they're about 70%. A loss, they're about 30% chance just to make the playoffs. And if the Chiefs are sitting there with a 5-6 next to their name coming out of this week, oh boy, that's going to be it's still jarring seeing them at 5-5 at this point.
Yeah, well, because of the success they've had. I mean, whatever about the highest playoff leverage of the week, this is probably the highest playoff leverage they've had during the Mahomes era. Like because they've never been in playoff trouble really before. They've always been fairly comfortably cruising to the division. Like this is probably the most at risk their playoff lives have been since Patrick Mahomes has been their quarterback, which is pretty crazy. Particularly because, you know, by a bunch of measures, they're no worse than they were a year ago. Like, a lot of underlying data says they're basically the same football team, and yet they're coming out in the crappy end of every one of these one-score games instead of the good end.
Just losing all the one-score games.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. But I think because of that, nobody's panicking yet. Nobody, thinks, well, this season it's in desperate straits, even if they lose to some good teams and beat some bad teams. They're still in the mix and still firmly capable of it. And I mean, they're favored for this game, right? Like
they're favored by 3.5, which is, I believe they were favored by 3.5 last week against Denver.
Right.
Same.
And we're out here, against one of the better teams in the NFL, saying they can and should apparently still go out and beat them.
So I think on storyline-wise, things to keep an eye on here. The last 2 times we've seen Daniel Jones, we saw him
Pumpkin watch?
What's that?
Pumpkin watch?
Pumpkin watch. Oh, boy. I mean, look, if you are – it depends on how you want to view this stuff. Sam Darnold just had his, 4 interceptions, his big turnover game. He had elements of that to his game, Darnold. And so a lot of times in our brain, we're like, hey, this guy wasn't good before. He's on a good stretch. It can't last. It can't last, right? And Darnold has mostly bucked the trend for about a year and a half. He's been very good for the most part, but you still have those bad games. And then if we're fair, it's like, yeah, well, Josh Allen has bad games. Mahomes, like guys that we think are elite, they also have bad games. Doesn't mean that they're turning back into a pumpkin. But I do believe there are some concerns with Daniel Jones, right? Multiple fumbles. He's had, 6 fumbles in the last 2 games. Some are tough to avoid. You're in your throwing motion. Some are just late in the down, and he's putting the ball on the turf. He's throwing the ball to the defense a bunch. And that was against Pittsburgh 3 weeks ago, and then Atlanta in Germany 2 weeks ago. Then they had the bye. In the Atlanta game, Pittsburgh game, they lost by 7, but I don't even think it was that close. It was because of the turnovers that they lost. And then in the Atlanta game, they survived. They win in overtime, but man, they made it close because of the turnover. So I got to keep an eye on that. I think Daniel Jones played excellent, efficient football the first 10 or so weeks of the season, 9 weeks of the season, whatever it was. Very efficient football, great playmakers. I think Jonathan Taylor could be the run game could be the actual X factor in this game for the Colts. We don't talk about that in a minute. But Daniel Jones on these third downs, where early in the year, remember he had a big 3rd and 17 scramble. He's made some huge plays on third down. That's where Bo Nix won last week. That's where the quarterback who's on paper shouldn't be as good as Mahomes, but he makes these big plays, and you look back and it's like, man, Bo Nix made some huge plays on third down to get this win for the Broncos. That's what the Colts are going to need from Daniel Jones, and they certainly can't have the turnover-worthy plays that he's had the last couple times out.
Yeah, that's critical. I mean, I think the thing is he's already turned it back into a pumpkin. The thing is the pumpkin is good enough. They only needed the pumpkin. They didn't need, the fancy carriage. The first few weeks of the season, he had this like crazy, 9.5 yards per attempt type of production, and that was probably never likely to be his baseline. Basically, since that point, that's leveled off fairly reasonably. And now he's just the same guy he's always been, only he's in a way better situation. And that's why that's all it needed. Like we were saying this heading into the season, that think about it, this is the best receiving core, definitely offensive line, and probably coaching ticket that's ever been around Daniel Jones. Those are the three things that support a quarterback's performance. And so logically, this would likely be the best season you've ever seen from Daniel Jones, or at least one of them. And it is. But even if it just repeats, let's say he just doubles his first half of the season with the second half, it wouldn't be night and day better than anything you've seen from him before. It would just be, about what you'd expect it to go up numbers-wise based off improving those three pillars of his support system. And I think the important thing is all they need is for him to just be that. They don't need him to be a great quarterback. They just need him to be Daniel Jones and not have bad games, not have the terrible game. Like where it becomes a problem is the last couple of weeks where it's like you have 4 or 5 turnover-worthy plays and you really do put the ball in harm's way. Well, then we actually need some really positive stuff on the other end to try and offset those big negative plays. If you just avoid massive screw-ups, just get the ball to Jonathan Taylor and to Tyler Warren and to, just don't make a mess of it.
So, yeah, I think the other couple interesting things there with Jones, like if he takes care of the ball, they have a chance to move the ball against Kansas City, right? If you're given 9 or 10 possessions, you can't give away 2 or 3 of them. The Chiefs, you mentioned how the Bills really exploited their linebackers in coverage a couple weeks ago in the middle of the field. Tyler Warren, right? The Colts, when they're targeting tight ends, 10.8 yards per play, that's second in the league. They're down at 9th yards per play on all other throws. The Chiefs are 26th in yards per play allowed against tight ends. So I think Tyler Warren could be huge in this game. You got to have his weekly tight end screen. But remember, they'll use him. I pull out the best Tyler Warren plays. Give him a yoink play, give him a screen, let him line up in the backfield. They've set him up at fullback enough this year that I think you could do it like once a year, the old fullback seam. Right? You play action, get him up the seam. Like I would pull out the best of Tyler Warren and say, this dude, just like last year against USC, he had like 19. It was either 19 targets or 19 catches. It was insane. It was like, this guy's going to win the game for us. Honestly, if I'm the Colts and I'm trying to get Daniel Jones back on track, the QB's best friend being the QB-friendly tight end. I would go heavy Tyler Warren here. And then I think when you look at Jonathan Taylor, I think where's the run defense for the Chiefs? Just in a vacuum, like it's okay, like middle of the pack when it comes to EPA and everything. And when you face the Raiders, EPA was negative 0.83. It was only a handful of plays, but the Raiders almost lost an entire point every time they handed off against the Chiefs. So I think, and the Chiefs did a nice job against the Broncos last week from a run defense perspective. But the times that they've been given up a little bit against the run, Eagles, Bills, the Giants got them a little bit when they started going to Scattaboo. Chiefs did a pretty good job against the Lions and their good run game. So I think overall Spags and that defense, they do a nice job against the run, against bad rush offenses. But I do think Jonathan Taylor and this offensive line, they've got a chance to have some success. And even though the Chiefs' offense isn't what it was 4 or 5 years ago, you still, and the Chiefs play this shorten the game type of deal. I think the teams that give the Chiefs the most problems are the teams that get 4 yards here and 6 yards there, and the long sustainable drives, and they just tighten the game up enough, and then you hope you win at the end. So I think Jonathan Taylor has a chance to have some success, and Tyler Warren, and then Daniel Jones just has to, when the Spags blitz comes, right?
That's
you can't put the ball on the turf. You can't make those bad decisions.
So can, Spags' scheme and that defense and that blitz, can they dial up bad Daniel Jones plays? Can they cause him to panic? Can they cause him to make a couple of big mistakes in the game? Or, get to him and force fumbles, right? Like, that's the other element of Daniel Jones, that if pass protection becomes a problem, which is not necessarily an offensive line thing, it can be a protection thing, just a mistake, a mental error as opposed to anything else. But he doesn't necessarily handle that particularly well and will often make those plays significantly worse. The last 2 weeks have been bad from both those perspectives. Maybe those are just 2 bad games, but those are the types of things that Spagnuolo can force as a defensive coordinator. He might be able to force a bad Daniel Jones game as opposed to just hoping one comes along.
And then on the other side of the ball, the quick storylines to touch on here. We did a little, if you're a Chiefs fan and you want more breakdown on the Chiefs, we did stuff yesterday where we did our root insurance, tried to fix the Chiefs and explain what was wrong. And most of the time I just said, hey, just keep playing football, right? So at some point, those one-score games will go back your way. But interesting matchup here, right? The Chiefs are healthy again, right? They have all their receivers. They have Josh Simmons back at left tackle. We've got Lou Anarumo at defensive coordinator on the other side. And that was always a fun storyline when he was with the Bengals. Didn't mean he always had success against Mahomes, but he had some level of success at times when no one was having success against him. And he was doing it, remember, way back in the playoffs with the 3-man rush, and he would get into the 3-man rush with the drop 8. He would get in there in unique ways. He had the cheat code that was Trey Hendrickson, that even if you rush 3, he still might win, and so you had nowhere to throw the ball. I'm going to be interested on that side of the ball too, and Lou's always done a really nice job of making those second-half adjustments. And now you've got Sauce Gardner. Travarius Ward, not sure on his status. He's coming off the concussion. He's been back at practice. He's cleared to come back off IR. This would be the game where he could come back, and we might get to see Travarius Ward and Sauce Gardner for the first time on the outside. And the Chiefs have been awful against man coverage versus zone coverage. And that's where teams have said, hey, go win your one-on-ones and make these tight window throws. And that's where the Chiefs have struggled. So I think there's a great schematic battle on that side of the ball, especially if you have Ward and Sauce on the outside.
And I think we already saw flashes of, Sauce allows them to do more on defense. Like, you can forget about him, let him play man coverage, isolate him, and now you can start blitzing more. Now you can start doing more creative stuff throughout the rest of the defense. We saw just glimpses of that the last time. I think you might see more of it this week.
So playoff implications are massive. We know the Colts are now battling for the number 1 seed. The Patriots are technically ahead of them. Is Denver? I keep forgetting here. Denver's 9-2 because neither team's had a bye, right? Is that right? Do I have that correct?
Yeah, because they were 8-2 heading into that game.
Right. So Denver and New England are ahead,
right?
Because they're both 9-2, but they haven't had a bye yet. So the Colts have a chance to, catch up record-wise. Once Denver and New England have a bye, and then obviously if they lose, Colts, creeping back toward the pack in the AFC South, but they control their own destiny there. And then for the Chiefs, you're literally talking about maybe not making the playoffs if you don't win this game. We said last week was huge against Denver. We know that, but this one is as big, if not bigger, going up against Indy. It's also Chiefs are 5-5. It's still a measuring stick game for Indy. Can you play these playoff caliber games in Arrowhead with everything on the line here?
Yeah, well, as I said, they're Kansas City's favorite for the game. Vegas still has faith. They are still expected to be one of the best teams in the NFL. They're still expected to make the playoffs. So, yeah, the Colts should not be looking at a 5-5 record and saying, "Oh, this is just a middling team we can expect to go and roll over." This is still a team as if they were playing the Patriots or the Broncos or any of these other teams with really good records. That's the category that Vegas puts the Chiefs in right now.
All right, man. 3.5. Chiefs are favored Sunday at 1. Where are you going to go?
The Chiefs are still, according to FanDuel, minus 192 to make the playoffs. So they're still very much expected to be a playoff football team.
One other thing I want to mention, DeForest Buckner was placed on IR before the bye as well. So missing him. I mean, with Laiatu Latu and Buckner, I think you've got the ability to create some havoc on the middle. Missing Buckner, I think, is going to be huge for Indy.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with the Colts to cover that line.
All right, I'll take KC to bounce back. I hate the 3.5, though. 0-5 in these one-score games.
Yeah.
The inverse of everything that happened last year. I'll say Kansas City flips it.
This
week.
is like
Harry will
Mahomes.
take Indy.
There's been this narrative the whole time through this era that, Mahomes, the Chiefs, they're just able to turn it on when it matters. The big games, the playoffs, they don't really care. They're just going to get there. And Mahomes basically said that. Like, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to get to January, whatever. I mean, you need this kind of game to get to January. It's the rare regular season playoff type of atmosphere where if that's something you can turn on, you kind of need to turn it on here.
It is, because they still have the Chargers again, the Broncos again. I think Dallas on Thanksgiving is going to be a challenge. Like I said, they have the Titans and Raiders still on the schedule. Like, you've got some games you're going to look and say we should win those. But if you lose against the Colts, then you really can't slip up against two division rivals, against a hungry Cowboys team. Like, this is as close to must win as you're going to get for the Chiefs in the regular season.
Like, with Dallas's potential resurgence, we'll see how that goes this week. But looking at that, you would say only Tennessee and the Raiders are like definite chalk up a win. And the Raiders have, even when they suck, they've played them hard. So who knows?
Yeah.
But Denver, the Chargers, Texans, Cowboys, Colts, these are all dangerous teams that could beat them. Like, they don't have a whole bunch of, it's not like a cakewalk of a schedule they're comfortable looking at that schedule. We've got 4 or 5 wins easy. No problem. Like, they're going to have to work at this.
So you and Harry both taking the Colts. I will take the Chiefs to cover the 3.5.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video.
You heard the man. Subscribe.